Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the Wednesday, December 2nd. It's the 4 o'clock in the afternoon Southampton Council on Aging Board meeting. So welcome, everybody. Just going to go through who's in attendance. We have Janet Kane, Chair, Yvonne Betty Davis, Lori Loisel, Kay Lorigan, Jim Palermo, Josie Alderman, and Nancy Ruccio. And I just got a message that Rini will be joining us via phone shortly. So, okay. Kay?
Yes.
I may have you just mute your phone because the last time I muted it, you couldn't get back in because there's a lot of feedback. Can you try muting your phone for a second?
Okay.
And I'm going to speak again, and it kind of eliminates the feedback. I don't know why we get feedback, but if you wish to speak, Kay, please unmute yourself and share, okay? Because you'll have to do that at the Friends update. Thank you for doing that. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We called it to order at 4:02, and we're looking at November's minutes. Any comments, thoughts, or motion to approve?
Motion to approve is written. Thank
And I
you,
will
Jim.
second that motion.
Okay, Nancy made a motion. Yvonne seconded the motion. All in favor of accepting the minutes? I'm going to do a quick roll call. Just say aye afterwards. Yvonne?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Kay? You have to unmute, Kay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Aye.
Josie?
Aye.
And Nancy?
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry, Kay, to do that to you. I don't know why there's so much feedback on the phone. All right. Treasurer's report. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? And I'll bring it up just because if there's questions on any of the line items, let me just bring that up real quick on the screen. Because Nancy has detail underneath it. So I think I have the right one, hopefully. Any questions or comments, questions for Nancy or comments from Nancy or Joan regarding any of the columns? We all look like we're running in good shape financially.
Yes.
Nancy, your report looks beautiful.
Thank you, Josie. That means a lot to me.
It
Well,
does.
it means a lot to me, too.
I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Lori and Josie was a second. So I'm just going to do the roll call again. Yvonne,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Kay,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Janet, I'm sorry, Nancy,
Aye.
and Janet, aye. Okay, thank you.
Leave the lights as
Okay, we're all back. All right, moving right along here. Director's report. Joan, do you want me to bring that up as well? I can bring that up as well,
Sure.
if I can find it here.
I didn't get a chance to go back and asterisk what I want to talk about, but if anybody, I'll give some highlights, and if anybody has anything they want to hear more detail, I'd be glad to. Almost hit the 100 phone call list. I mean, and it's been busy on the phones. I think because we sent out 1,200 newsletters or thereabout, people got our phone number in front of them. And it's a lot of requests for volunteers to shovel snow and do yard raking and that kind of thing. Sand for seniors, lock boxes, numbers, and rides. Obviously rides, I get a lot of calls every day for rides, scheduling, canceling. So it's, they're keeping me on my toes for sure.
Great.
And the highlight of the month was the grocery giveaway. And I hope to repeat that in either February or March. I think it was a outstanding program. I think I should write it up in more detail. I had sent a couple photos to Robert Floyd, but even the reminder, I think Josie had somebody from the reminder was interested in that story. So I do have some photos, and I could write up a story in hindsight and just say this is one of the programs that we have done in the last month or so. But it was a good one. I have a few thank yous to get out. We had big donations from Big E's. Andrea Sullivan went to Big E's, and so did Francine, and they donated cases of food and nice, sturdy grocery bags. The Friends gave us or paid for, peanut butter and desserts, which they will be reimbursed for from the COVID fund. And then I purchased cases of tuna fish and paper towels and toilet paper, and I will be reimbursed for that from the COVID fund. But we got two 2021 calendars that I know Chris Falls and Janet and a few other people had donated calendars. I think Flo had a nice crew, including Josie and a bunch of people, maybe 8 or 10 of us that put it together one day, and then the following week we distributed it, and went very smoothly, better than I could have anticipated. One of the big things was bringing like a dozen to the village where Darlene lives, and we gave them to all the veterans there, or the veterans' wives. And then we went the next day to the Meadows and gave another dozen or 15 there. So that was the bulk of our deliveries. And we did maybe half a dozen door to door with the van.
It was great. It was good, and we enjoyed it. And I'm glad that it went. That you think it went well. It was a nice day. Which, at least for the giveaways, I can't even remember about for the packing, but it did seem to go along well. I couldn't believe those bags were heavy. There was gave a lot of food away. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And,
thanks. Great. Thanks for letting us utilize the church to assemble. So that was really helpful, obviously.
Yeah, the church is put together. They've got an opening, what they call an opening group. They're decided what the rules are going to be. And I think at this point, we're not open, but there may be, they're going to limit the number of days when people can be in the church. And I think I want to say Wednesday and Thursday. I'm not quite sure about that. And there's going to be a limit of 10 maximum. So only one group at a time, and with a maximum of 10 people. And everybody's got to sign in and all of that stuff. But with things changing, it's hard to know for sure what's going to happen long term, but that'll get us through this year.
Okay. Thanks, Josie. And you want to continue on, Joan?
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the awning now, or do you want to, is that on the
Oh, we have the CARES Act fund on either way, it doesn't matter.
we can talk about it later. I'll bring up the tech loan program, which I thank Janet for setting that up with the Northampton Senior Center. And I also thank Jim for all his information from the Northampton Senior Center, and Yvonne. You keep sending me all kinds of great ideas, which I can't read them all, and especially Jim's goes to my spam, so I have to find it. But as time goes on, we are going to implement more virtual programs. The My Senior Center, which Friends pays for, it has what they call My Active Center, and that has a whole nother iCloud of programming. So we've just touched the surface of what we can do or what we can promote. Unfortunately, it's not going to reach those people that don't have Zoom or computers, and that's why the tech program is so important. We have 4 tablets and 2 iPads. We have 2 are out on loan and people are using, and 4 more are we're hoping to get out on loan, and we're still working on how to purchase the data for them. I guess it can be inputted right into the tablet in a SIM card or something like that, but it could be $10 to $30 a month per unit. So it does get pricey.
You only need it if you don't have Wi-Fi. So, I mean, I think our target right now is to give it to people that might have Wi-Fi but don't have a mechanism for using a tablet to utilize their Wi-Fi, whatever.
Sorry to intrude, but I don't know anything about what you said for the minutes. Is it a check program?
It is a technological.
Tech, okay.
TETH, tech.
Number 21. So maybe
Thank you.
as you go through, just mention what number you're on so that you can kind of follow you on that. That would
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, so we had about an hour Zoom with Jay Casella, and she's very instrumental. She said that through the community action, they have some intergenerational programming with students who are sharing their knowledge of computers with the seniors. So there's still a lot to learn, and we can reach out to them. Should be glad to,
And Joan, who is Jay Casella?
So I think she's either a program director or assistant director at the Northampton Senior Center.
Okay.
Could
That's
be.
what I thought, but I wanted to be sure for the minutes.
Yeah. And Darlene and I were in on that, but Janet was the one that set it up. So we thank her for that.
Yeah, so our goal again is to get the other 4 out, and if we get enough money to pick up a couple grand pads to kind of expand that. So do you have information to share on that? And actually how it's going to work now, Joan, or discuss how you'd like to see it work, or get ideas from the group, or?
So we're going to do an article for the newsletter, and then we could put it in on Facebook page. And we could try and get it out with an email blast. But if you have email, then you probably you have a computer already. So anyway, we've got to get the information out that they're available and that will work with you if you're interested in. Right now, we have about 4 or 5 programs. So, but there's other programs. The one we did loan out, they're working with DopaFit actually, because they're doing a lot of work. So they're a senior in town, but they're not necessarily using it for our senior program, but they're using it for other programs. So I think I don't have a problem with that.
No,
we're promoting the technology because that's all there is right now.
Okay.
I want to just briefly touch on the Laugh for the Health of It was poorly attended, but actually in hindsight, I'm glad because it really wasn't what we expected. And I wasn't impressed with it at all. We were all waiting to hear jokes to make us belly laugh, and it wasn't anything like that at all. It was all about how to laugh and movement and laughter. And it was kind of corny. That was the general gist. That was pretty corny, and I'm glad that it, even though it was on the front page and we invited a lot of people, I'm glad the 10 that went. I thank you for putting up with it. But although I did hear that the DopaFit group is going to do it with their group.
So that's number 19, right, Joan?
Number 19.
Okay. For Jim's notes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How was the Parkinson's by Dopafit? I tried to attend that and the room was filled, so I couldn't get in.
Yeah, I tried, and again, it was a Monday morning, and I was in the office alone, so it didn't work well for me. The one thing I took away from it that I did hear, because I'm working on 2 computers and trying to do too much at once, it's that they're finding that brain stimulation is kind of what they're finding very successful. So I thought that was interesting, and I met a gentleman who takes our transportation, and we talked about it a little bit, and I'm not sure how expensive or if insurance covers that. But anyway, it's I know Chad, who was working locally, is doing a lot of national, international kind of work now because of the tech, that we could do everything on computers. So he's reaching out to people, to experts all over the world. So it's quite interesting.
Any other questions for Joan?
Nope.
And Rini has joined us, so I just want to welcome Rini.
Did you want to go?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Ricky.
Joan, what were you saying?
Janet, did you want to go over the Tai Chi class or the videotaping, or not necessarily? We had Easthampton Media come to us because you can't go to their studios right now. And it was kind of a chilly, windy afternoon, but he was able to get an hour or so of Glenn in the class. And I haven't heard anything else about editing it and how it's going to view on Easthampton. It may be, we can access it by a link. So I will follow up on that, though.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some ideas before the newsletter comes out. And we also had a link that I sent out to the Tai Chi class for the master. I don't know what they're called, but the person that Glenn didn't learn from directly, but the master, Ben Lowe, he's got a YouTube. So people can actually go on YouTube if they have the technology and follow what we've been learning throughout the winter. So, because Tai Chi outside is not scheduled after the end of November, so.
Janet, you were talking about that, and I was watching Jeopardy, I think it was last week, and they mentioned that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America.
It is.
So,
And Southampton is helping.
yeah. There might be a pickleball Hall of Fame here in Southampton, and
There may be.
yeah.
We did have 3 courts going on Sunday, so.
Wow, great.
And there's a lot of people that just don't want to play with masks on that haven't come back this year. So, I mean, we have a list of like 30 people that over the last couple of years have been active. So once the 2 courts will come in handy, and we'll be able to use the 2 tennis courts on top of that. So, we can't wait for everything to get completed. So Parks Commission meets on Wednesday. So I'm hoping they have some updates regarding the package or the design or whatever, how they're moving forward. So Darlene is, anything you want to put out on Darlene's here?
So she's doing 2 craft classes this month. She's done about 2 a month for the last few months. This one is a Christmas gift box making and Christmas gift bag making. And she put together envelopes with all the supplies in them, and I just have to drop those off. And we haven't had a big turnout for that, but a few of our craft people aren't Zoom savvy or maybe don't have the technology, so that's where the tech support will come in handy if we can get that out to them and set them up maybe within the next month or so.
Okay. And how did bingo go today? Was there bingo today?
Oh yes, Lori was calling, and we had I don't know how many were there, Lori, about a dozen?
Yeah, we had a good crowd today.
Good.
And it's nice because Darlene is on with us. So I always ask her during the playing to mention activities coming up to encourage people.
Okay.
We were really pushing like line dancing. We would, I was saying to them, Myrna can't see my feet, so she has no idea whether or not I'm in step. And we mentioned that Tai Chi would be coming to Zoom.
Yep. Well, not to Zoom, but to Easthampton Media.
Yeah.
So just trying to encourage people. And we talked about trivia. Joan had her first trivia class, and that was lots of fun.
And we have another one scheduled for the 17th of December, which will be holiday trivia.
Oh, fun.
So does that go out? Do you send an email if there's something special like that, like an email blast to your 100+ email addresses, or how does that, other than the calendar?
That's a great idea. We just did that for the luncheon because I need to have a count for Monday. So it's not on this report, but as you may or may not be aware, Highland Valley has supported a luncheon for us in December, on December 11th, which would have been the Friends indoor luncheon. It's going to be a cold meal to be reheated. And it's the same meal that other towns are getting and the Meals on Wheels people are getting. Right now we have 14 of 40 signed up. So I'm hoping for a good number. The details won't come out till tomorrow. I have a 11 o'clock Zoom meeting with Nancy Mathers, who's the chief nutritionist at Highland Valley. And she and another woman, her last name is Reardon, I think. Anyway, we're going to discuss the details of how this is all going to play out, because we can't use the center. They're doing it twice a week in Easthampton for the last few months, and they've used the high school, and I think they use the city hall. You just get your numbers in, your names and numbers in, a few days before, and I guess they're going to show up with coolers. I'm not sure. That I have to figure out. We have to figure out how to keep things cool.
Yep.
And then transfer. A lot of people can pick up like 4 meals at a time and distribute them to their neighbors. Like we have a couple couples that live on Maple Street, and they're going to get 4 at a time. So it should be, I think it should run pretty smoothly.
And I guess I'll reach out to the group to see if they know of anybody that maybe isn't necessarily active in the senior center all the time, but could be very appreciative of such an offer. So if you know of anybody, please contact Joan and that person and see if they're interested and get their name to Joan before Monday, if you could.
And I had a little trouble following that too. This is not a sit-down indoor luncheon.
Correct.
This is making lunches available to people who sign up for them.
Correct.
And they're not necessarily members of Friends.
Oh, no.
Members of the senior center, right, Joan?
They're seniors in town. They don't necessarily even have to be members of the center, although if they register for this, they'll probably officially become a member of the center.
Yeah.
Because we have to get their information. So
Okay. And the details are being worked out, right?
Correct. This is something I've never done, but other communities have done it quite often. How many? I think it's either 22 or 27 communities that Highland Valley covers, and they have congregate meals at many of these places. And since the centers have closed as of March, they are still distributing these meals. And so we may use our van as a spot to keep warm, maybe use the back of the van to drop off, to give the meals out. But it depends on the weather. I don't know what's going to happen with the weather and how it's all going to work out. But
Right.
Joan, do you think if you wanted to just rent a tent for the day and
well, I have a pop-up. I mean, I don't know how much we need. If we set up a few tables.
a couple pop-ups or something, and
Yeah.
an extension cord with a heater or something. But yeah, so I mean, Jim, just when in lieu of, and these are prepared, so they come cold and they
Correct.
can be heated.
Correct.
So, and cooked. So it's a matter of keeping them cool enough for distribution. So they're not a cooked meal. They're a meal to be, are they cooked and they're being reheated, Joan?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a cooked meal that's packaged by Highland Valley, provided to the town, and will distribute to up to 40 people maximum, depending on how many people sign up and that are interested. So the goal is to find a way, it's a week from Friday, to get them distributed or have them as pickups to go. So if you need help, Joan, just let, I'm sure there are people on this call that would be willing to, put their winter coats on and help you outside or whatever is needed. But we'll send a message out and let people know.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll find
the event
out
will
more
take-
tomorrow.
The event will take place a week from Friday?
Yes.
Correct. December 11th, I believe about noontime.
Great, thank you.
If I could just interject on this subject.
Yes.
If Kay Lorigan and Yvette could mention it to their walking group and their Healthy Bones group, there may be people there that would be interested. And what about, do we have a connection to the Meadows?
Yes.
Yeah, those people would probably be more than glad.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that was instrumental in the groceries is that, there may be a dozen to 15 people that we can bring meals to. And some of them may already get them from Meals on Wheels, so they wouldn't be included. But this would be above and beyond the Meals on Wheels people.
Excellent.
So I just also, speaking of which, the people at the Meadows. So as you guys probably know, Liz Fletcher's grandmother lives at the Meadows, and she said she went to visit her the other day, and she said, "I heard," this is a quote from Liz, "I heard from some very happy seniors that there were bags of essentials dropped off to them last week by Joan. Please send thank yous to her and the entire COA crowd. So very thoughtful and very appreciated by many."
Nice.
Okay, just to share that with you as well.
Thank you.
So, it's our first time, and we're not, what is it called? We're not a meal spot, Joan, or?
Right. We're not a congregate meal site for Highland Valley at this time, but they will do it for special events. That came out in the first board meeting that I attended, that they will do it for special. And we never had a regular meal. We would, order pizza or, whatever we did, made soup or whatever. And then the Friends always had the beautiful restaurant catered meals. So this is a new avenue for us, and I'm happy that we have at least something to offer. It's been for somebody who likes to be active and be giving and doing activities and programs. It's like your hands are tied. So I feel like now at least we can offer something to the community. That's especially around the holidays.
Great, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Joan. It's a nice, it's nice to get to know Highland Valley better and to become better educated on what things we can take advantage of. So that's a great step forward. Anything else on the reports before we move on the agenda? Okay, thanks, Joan, for all the details. Friends update, Kay. Off of mute, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The Friends had a meeting yesterday, December 1st, by Zoom on 10:30. And I attended by telephone, and I'm not sure how many they had, but they didn't have a quorum, but they still had a meeting. So the treasurer's report was presented, and they're doing very well. They only had one big item that they had to spend for was the My Senior Center database, which was $1,300. And as of the end of November, they have a balance of $9,884.15. And they also had some other expenses for the grab bags, but they'll get reimbursed for that. And so that was, they couldn't really vote on it, but they were going to get together and to have a quorum to vote for all, to accept all these, well, the treasurer's report for one, and then Joan did a lengthy report on sort of what you did today, and told them all the things that are happening locally and what's going on, and they very happy about that new space. It will be outside with the awning, so we'll might eventually have some place to meet outside after the winter, when the weather gets a little better. So there was much discussion about stuff like that, and also, let me see, Lori brought up her report about people interested in joining the COA board, and if anybody that they know would be interested. And I think it ran about an hour or over an hour, but they were going to get together and so they could verify it, I guess, through the quorum. But they did have the meeting, and they plan on having another meeting scheduled for. Well, it's not actually. They're scheduling a planning meeting on January 5th, and then hopefully an annual meeting January 19th. But that's not set in stone. That's what they're planning in the future. But it was a very nice meeting, nice to talk to people and, just socialize with. But there's not a lot going on, but, they're doing, a lot of them helped with the grab-and-go bags. They helped do some of that, and, it was just nice getting together. So I think that's all that I have to report on that. But
All right. Thanks, Kay. Appreciate you attending that as well. Yeah, the quorum was for the executive committee, so that's where they were lacking.
Oh, I see. But yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
All right.
Could I just add something in?
Say that.
Sure.
I just wanted to add something about postage and the mail certificate. So our bulk mailing comes from the Friends, and so they had to pay for last year and this year so we could send out the 1,200 newsletters. And then they paid for our postage, which will be reimbursed to Friends. It was about $483 for postage, which they will get back from the CARE grant. And we, before the end of the meeting today, I just want to get a verification if we want to try and send out one more newsletter for January, or if we want to wait until February or March when there's more things in place.
Okay. Yeah, the newsletter's on the agenda, so we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that, which we can go to that right now, Joan, if you'd like. So, we just sent one out in November, right? So my feeling is, and I certainly want input from all the board, that I think if we're going to do a newsletter and mail it out, we really need to make sure we've got some good, thorough information for people to enjoy and to absorb and to whatever else. So I wanted to throw it out to the board. Joan all of a sudden has a crunch time. It's like due the 15th, and I think she scrambles for 48 hours trying to put together a newsworthy memo for the letter for the town. And so I guess I'd like to see if we could do a little different approach and maybe have a newsletter committee of some sort. And I don't know it doesn't have to be just the board, but also other Friends members. And how do we help gather information and not put it all on Joan's lap and make it more of a collective, effort from the seniors in town. And so I just wanted to throw that out for discussion and see what other people thought about that. I mean, it's a great newsletter. It's just that time where the information is difficult to pull together, maybe we could help Joan out a little bit by pulling some things together. So one of the things I did after listening to the select board meeting last night and to hear Tammy Walunas talk about the Historical Society and the Clark Chapman House was ask Tammy if she could send us a few pictures and an article to put in the newsletter, for example. So it's also informative about what else is going on in town besides, outside of the senior center, but things that also affect the people in town that they vote for and we have impact on. So we got about a dozen pictures. So now we have to figure out how to pull out a couple of those and put it in. But those are kind of, again, that's just Joan and I having a quick brainstorm and me seeing something on the select board meeting last night. So thoughts from the board or from Joan or from our liaison or.
Well, I'll put my 2 cents in. I just read Robert Floyd's newsletter before I came on, and he did an article about racism in the back in the centuries in the town of Amherst. I assume it's a town. And what, are there really any changes going on now? It was really interesting to read. And I do know, because when I was doing some political work way back when, the house that sits right across from the police station, the big white house, and I'm sorry, I don't know the owner's name, but that house had an underground railroad and was getting the blacks coming in from the south to safety. So an article on something like that would be really interesting because it happened in Southampton.
Mm-hmm. So that's Gary Thomas, I think, Gary and Jay Thomas, I think it's their house.
That would be a fascinating thing to put in the senior scoop. Perhaps the ones that we mail out, especially to, and I'll just use the word educate and not apologize for it, to educate people, to get them to get an understanding of where they live and what this community has as its past, its history, its today and tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe there could be, we could have a little blip in the next newsletter, something about or go to the historical committee. They would know people that we could probably touch and get a little history on what's going on. And my other recommendation would be to wait until March, April, before we send out another mailing.
Yeah, we might be able to, I think, put more into it, especially with some of the suggestions that have just been, stated from Janet and Lori. Yeah.
Plus the fact
the Historical Society did some sort of a presentation on the Underground Railroad. I didn't get to see it, but I don't think it was all that long ago. Of course,
they may have done it, but I don't think it would hurt to have some of it in the newsletter, the senior scoop, to educate.
I think you're absolutely right about that. And whoever, I'm not even sure who's responsible for the Historical Society, but I mean, contacting them, and they may be even willing to write it for us or share what they had done before.
Yeah, I think Tammy is actually maybe the chair of the Historical Society. But I mean, there's a lot of good knowledge, and if the more that we can, there's the Historical Society and then there's this Historical Commission. So one is a volunteer board, one is, an outside group.
Who else would be a good source for information would be Judith Miller Conlon.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's sort of like a historian for the town, and she does a lot of history stuff for the cemetery and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, there was that great cemetery tour not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess those are kind of the things that I envision in the newsletter, that it's going to take more than just Joan, to put it together. And this is great brainstorming that can help And if we can reach out to some of the people, whether it's, and get some more detail. I mean, so we have something for this coming newsletter, but I agree that to do another newsletter that looks a lot like the last one and spend a lot of money to mail it out just because we happen to have funds coming in maybe this month, doesn't make sense. So we don't want to rush. We want it to have a really, maybe, like everybody has been reporting. So
I'd be willing to make a motion that we do as you suggest, specifically holding off on the newsletter until we have enough information to make it financially worthwhile.
Holding off on mailing the newsletter.
Right.
Yeah, because it's going to go out anyway. So,
Well, I mean, are you talking about holding off on mailing a newsletter, or are you talking about holding off on doing the next newsletter in, say, February?
No, mailing.
Mailing, because we're under a contract.
Got it.
We're contracted to do 11. It used to be 12, but I got it down to 11 so I could do a double month in the summer and take a month off. But 11 issues, and there's sponsors that pay for it. We don't pay for the printing of the newsletter. It's the mailing that costs so much money.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so the newsletter doesn't cost us anything.
Correct.
The mailing, and especially when you want to fold it and you tab it and do all this, that the members of the Friends used to come in and volunteer and do all of that, and now we're outsourcing that for obvious reasons. So yeah, I mean, so Jim, your motion is let me go back to your motion again. Your motion is to postpone the next mailing of the newsletter till late winter, early spring, or just
until such time as the board decides that we have enough information to make a meaningful mailing.
You think you want to try to plan on something like a quarterly mailing or
Well,
twice a year?
we
Or
can really only afford twice a year.
Okay.
Friends helped us to mail it before. Friends paid for postage for mailing before and everything else,
So they have the bulk license now, so they certainly probably, we could speak to them about doing that. Now that they've got the license for the year.
Yeah.
We should,
And I think the formula grant, we use the formula grant as well for bulk mailing. But I think, so say mid-February, you need the March one. I think it'd be kind of, monumental because it'll be a year since COVID and the closure. So it would be good maybe that we could send it out, the March newsletter.
So
No,
that
it
means
would be another interesting article, doing something on COVID.
How it changed the center and how it changed.
How it changed everyone's life.
So I think we have a motion on the table, though. Do we have a second to Jim's motion?
I'll
I'll
say.
second Jim's motion.
Okay. Yvonne and Lori tied. Yvonne, second. And now discussion, okay? And then we can have a vote. So if we look at a March timeframe, because we may want to kind of determine a timeframe at this point, that means we can't wait till the 10th of February to get information to Joan. So you had some great ideas. Can somebody work with Judith Miller Collins and see anybody willing to reach out? I don't know her. Does anybody know her that could reach out to her?
I know her.
Would you reach out to her?
Sure. Yeah. Of course, Josie knows it better. Not that I avoid stuff, but no, I'd be happy to reach out to Judith.
And maybe she could just come up with a couple thoughts of things that she thinks would be of really interest to the senior community. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Is there any more discussion on putting together a newsletter and working together over the next 2 months to?
If it's helpful for me to amend my motion to mention March, to set March as the date.
Well,
All right.
is that sound soon? I mean, would you like me to push it till April? And that would give you till mid-March to do it? I mean, I don't want to put pressure on people.
I got to keep my mouth shut here.
No, that's what it's here for. We're discussing.
Never going to happen, but go ahead.
Highland Valley is coming through with a meal for Christmas time. And I'm thinking, maybe they'll come up with something for Easter. So the newsletter going out in March or April will coincide. It'd be a way of advertising that at the same time. And the other thing I would love, if anybody knew anyone whose family members or them themselves lived through the Holocaust, because, you know, there was the real push that people were believing it didn't exist. Well, we all know it existed.
And you know, these are things that we don't have to do them all in one newsletter.
Exactly.
So they're different topics of interest. And maybe, Joan, in the December newsletter, maybe find out if there are things that, you know, people would want to hear more about, you know, and maybe you can, you know, send an email to Joan if there's some interesting topics.
Darlene, I'm going to make it Darlene.
Darlene is good. You know, to make it so that we're collecting the information, and maybe for the first March one, maybe this will hopefully evolve, that each newsletter will have something of our historic value or something that's, you know, I don't want to say of interest to others, because I think the newsletter has been well received and there's been a great job done with it. It's just you're you know, looking for filler at this point because, you know, we don't have things going on at the center. So anybody, let's go for an all in favor of targeting the March newsletter for Jim's motion in the second. So I'm going to do a quick roll call. Yvonne?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Josie?
Aye.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Janet, aye. Okay, so we'll look for that. Joan, how can we help you? You tell us.
Well, you already have, just by reaching out to everybody and people stepping up to contact people. But I think, you know, it's a collaboration. It's if everybody contributes to it, it's going to make my life easier. I'll just say, you know, send in your article for the Historic Society or the Historic Commission or whoever. Maybe, you know, the pickleball. I know you did that for me last year. One page was all about pickleball and there was a photo. So yeah, if I could get one page a month that I don't have to think about, all I have to do is copy and paste and add a photo, that would be wonderful. We'll have it the highlight, the centerfold.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
They don't do that anymore.
No? Okay.
You don't do that anymore.
All right. Moving on. So okay, great idea. Good. So
We
let's,
had a senator who did. Remember?
Yes, we did.
and moving on, I'll see if I can reach out to somebody else. So we have Tammy's information for the January letter, right? For the
Already cut and pasted. I'm so excited about it.
it's about all the renovations that have gone into the Clark Chapman house. So that'll be good. And I know that there's people like you said, maybe this cemetery commission, maybe the house across the street from the police station. We'll talk to somebody in the historical society. And I know Chris Falls is probably involved in that group.
Yes.
And I'll just ask her to point me in some directions for people we can talk to. I mean, I know Ted Hendrick. I mean, there are people that have been here a long time. They probably have some stories, some great stories to share. Okay.
I wanted to ask Yvonne, she's part of that writing group. Do you ever have anybody talk about, you know, their life in Southampton?
Yes. Not in Southampton, no. Their life. One of our writers can talk to the Black and Tan during the Troubles in Ireland. Her father was part of that. And there are some definite histories there. But as I'm thinking about it, Joan, I'm trying to pick up on there are some definite people who were, you know, born and bred here in Southampton. But it's amazing how it's their families elsewhere that seem to garner the attention, you know, the Troubles in Ireland, English, Russia, but not in Southampton. I don't want to say we're boring, and if we are, I'm glad. I mean, I had enough excitement in my life, growing up down south, in Texas and over to California and Florida. There was enough excitement there. So it may, in fact, be a little boring here in Southampton, thank goodness.
Well, we could alternate. Maybe one month we could do History of Southampton. Maybe another month we could do, a travel log from somebody who would like to talk about, a paragraph or a page about a trip they took.
Yeah,
and it might be a resident.
Connect on that, because one of our writing members, now we'll see if she goes in January, but she generally goes every year to Costa Rica for a couple of months and loves it, and is very, very down to earth and knows the people. So that's a fascinating person to listen to.
And wouldn't it be nice in the middle of the winter in February to have, a story about Costa Rica and how warm and beautiful it is? And,
yes.
We're not taking cruises this year, for sure.
Oh, ma'am, we're not. I don't care how much they're trying to get us on the boat.
Okay, great.
I make a motion to make Yvonne in charge of that.
In charge of what?
It'd be great in putting an article together, Joan.
Yeah, she is part of the writing group.
Perhaps an article, putting articles together about people who do different things.
Yeah. And even, it doesn't have to be that they may have grown up in Southampton, but where did mom and dad come from? Where did the grandparents come from?
Oh, well, that's what's fascinating to me, Laurie. That's absolutely fascinating, Like I said, we have one female person who's a writer and a poet, that her family is the black and tan during the troubles of Ireland in the 60s and 70s. And that's quite a history she's got. I believe her father was killed.
Wow.
So, you have quite some history here. Quite some history.
All right, was there a second to Lori's? Yvonne, are you seconding Lori's motion?
Oh, I wasn't sure what her motion was, to be honest with you.
Maybe come up with an article. I'm not sure she was putting you in charge of all the articles, or an article for a future.
One article would be good. I only need 11. So if I've got January's covered.
Okay, so I'll definitely, I'll second the motion.
Okay. So I'm not sure we needed a motion for that, but I think we can say all in favor, aye, without going to roll call. Anybody opposed?
It's Yvonne's going to do one article. Is that it, or she's?
I'm going to work on getting people's history to do an article.
Right.
And Jim's going to work on the one with Judith Miller. Yeah, so that's 2 more articles. So now I'm down to only needing 6 or 7.
I may have another one for you.
I want to find out about the underground. So
okay, that's going to be one.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you something? This is Rini. Can I just say something? This is Rini.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to know that Cindy Palmer seems to always, before the COVID, she was always doing some very exciting trips. She's got a daughter that lives, on the other side of the world. So just nominating someone to maybe check in with her.
Okay, Cindy Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think, yes, she went to India, I believe, when her daughter was living there. And did some climbing.
How about Rini Groden? I think she traveled quite a bit, too.
I wish.
Rini's going to do an article about growing up with 12 siblings.
I think Cindy.
I had 14 siblings, actually.
That would be an interesting story.
That would be a wonderful story, but we might need a book instead of a newsletter.
I think Cindy did.
I'd be happy to write that up.
That'd be great. Maybe Mother's Day.
Another article.
For May.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, deal.
Yeah. Oh, we're cooking now.
I think Cindy did a hike through Nepal.
Yeah, she did Nepal. Yes.
A Sherpa guide. So
yes,
it would make a good article.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it very much. Thank you everybody.
Yeah, so we'll start something, Joan, and then we'll expand it beyond this group and all the ideas of this group, and it'd be a highlight of something, you know.
But you know,
So-
interestingly enough, I think a lot of times, and I just thought of this as you were talking about articles about where people have been or family, what have you. I didn't think much of it until I realized that when Will and I went to Machu Picchu and Galapagos, that we stayed at a place that we were not supposed to be staying at, but it had changed quickly. It was not in Quito, and it was outside of Quito. And oddly enough, every floor had armed guards on it.
Wow.
Because at that point in time, there were some people who had done some killing of another country's prime ministers or legal people, and they were on. And now the judges were here at this hotel, and they were like unbelievable. And you walk out of your room and to see somebody with a rifle, you know, AK-47. It was rather interesting, to say the least.
How about a little scary? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was also the way it was in Italy right after 9/11, when it was amazing that, as Will said, I've got a Trinidadian and an American passport. You're not so lucky. You've got an American passport and you look American. And he was right. And the Italians were not very pleased with us at all, because they had just lost 19 victims, and all over the papal steps were flowers and what have you. And it was, again, armed guards in a very fancy hotel.
So
Is this in
Yvonne's going to
northern
be in
Italy?
charge of 2 articles. Yvonne has to write her story, and then she's going to get somebody else's. So that's
I don't know why I did that.
We have to love it.
Was that northern Italy?
That was in Rome.
Oh,
That was in Rome. That was right after 9/11. Right after 9/11.
northern Italians hate everybody. I'm Sicilian, I know.
I was in Rome for 9/11, and the Italians couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
I didn't say they weren't nice. I just said they were heavily armed. Very heavily armed.
I could write an article about why I had to be born in Buffalo.
I would read that.
Yeah, I wanted to be close to my mother at the time, you know?
Okay, that does that, Jim.
Okay, we're going to move on a little bit, you guys. Great ideas. Thank you very much. All right, I just, in case Nancy gets pulled out of work, I just wanted to touch base with, she did some research for us on the Lifeline. And I don't know if you have anything, I sent out the blurb that she was kind enough to share with us regarding, because we had a situation a couple of days before Thanksgiving that a senior was down for 12 hours approximately. The police were finally able to break down the door and actually are now putting a lockbox on the home. And I'm sure she's not the only person that could potentially be in this. So I asked, how do we help them get a lifeline? What is it? Can we give them more information in the newsletter about how to obtain that? Is there anything the center can do to obtain that? So Nancy, I don't know if you have anything more to share than, what you sent out to us or not.
I don't know. I don't really know a lot about it, except what, that social worker was able to give me. So I thought it was really good information.
Yeah. And maybe, Joan, we can put a little more information in the newsletter about Lifeline.
This one is called Connect America. So I'm not sure if it's a different program, but I don't know how expensive it is or anything. But I'd be glad to put in both.
It sounds like it was more geared to a senior population, the Connect America, but maybe do. I haven't clicked on the link yet, but I will do that as well and see where it takes us. But just to really emphasize, and I like to encourage, maybe, I know we did a outreach program for 70 and older, and I think if we can get a list of 85 and older, according to a census that Lucy gave, I think to maybe Chris for Master Plan Implementation Committee, there are almost 200 seniors in town, 90 and over. So that's a lot of people. And I'm kind of surprised by that number. I'd have to validate it, but even if it's off by a few, it's still a way that I don't know if Joan, we can get a list and really focus on the 90, 85 and over crowd as we go into the winter, and we're working with Flo and Darlene if they have the hours to do that. This is going to be a long, hard winter, and we just want to make sure that if there are people that need us, I know it's tough that sometimes we don't have phone numbers. If there's names of people that we don't have numbers for, let's figure out using white pages or whatever. How do we make sure we can reach out to them?
That came up at Friends meeting yesterday, and we said we could send a letter, well, on our letterhead,
Sure.
saying, that who we are and that we're reaching out to our 85 plus population, and we'd like to have any contact information and or our information, so that if you need us, please call us, because I had a couple calls recently, I think because of the mass mailing, of sons and daughters that are calling because one of them is a couple. They haven't had any oil heat for over a year. They've been using electric heaters.
Ooh.
And they're looking at the winter, and they can't go another winter with electric heaters. So so anyway, they've been introduced to the Almoner program.
You're reading my mind.
But thank God that somebody reached out, because and it just happened to be the same time that Cindy Palmer was sending information and somebody else was asking, and it came together. But unless they tell us, we don't know. And I know we have a lot of proud seniors and proud people that just don't ask for help.
So yeah, I mean, between the phone calls and like you said, if we can get I just pick 85, but I think there's a lot of really rambunctious 80-year-olds in town. Some of them are on this committee. So, I always think as starting older, we're not older until we're in our late 80s or something, but I know that's not true across the board. But how do we, get more outreach to those really vulnerable people over the next couple of months? And I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts or ideas or.
Well, I'm wondering, am I on here?
Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
Is the goal to get people hooked up with something like Lifeline or one of those systems?
Only if that's something they need. I mean, I don't know that we can. I think it's to know where they can call if they really are in need of something.
Because I know that a few years ago, after the October storm, and when we lost power for like a week or so, that the police department was trying to put together a program where people would sign up and, get somebody that would check on them, neighbor to check on them, and, maybe get their information over to the police so that in bad weather, if people needed to be checked on, that they would. And it never went anywhere, as far as I know. But, if people even had the information for who to call in terms of the police or the fire.
Well, what I think about too is you today that you can hit 911, but if you've fallen as an elder, doesn't mean you can reach a phone.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem. That's why I don't know, Joan. I know that you probably know that Roz wears something around her neck that has to do with Life Alert or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but it wouldn't matter if she was near a phone or not, as long as she could touch that device around her neck. And that's what people may not want to hear. Some people are good at hearing it. Some people are not good at hearing it.
Right. But I mean, I think, go ahead.
Well, I remember we went to, I think it was a Highland Valley
gathering.
Healthcare or annual.
Yeah,
At Hadley Farms at the time, yeah.
right. And they had several
Companies.
displays there or whatever from different companies that do just what Yvonne's talking about. That, people could access or, get one of these bracelets or necklace or whatever. And maybe having, I would expect, Joan, that you could get a list from Highland Valley for those resources.
Yeah, so Connect is one of them, and then Lifeline is one, but yeah, there's probably more.
And even just letting people know in a newsletter what those resources are and giving
Or
them
even a direct letter if it's, both a direct letter. And also, I think it would be a great idea to send the fire number and the police number and the senior center number and Renee's number. And I've seen it.
She's not listening.
The Triad group has been kind of on hiatus because they can't meet in the center, but they, in the newsletter, but it's on page 5, is the police department's number that says if you want to be checked on, you call the police, they put you on a list. I don't know how many's on the list, but I know at least a dozen people that when there's a storm or when there's an event, the police call their number and check on them, make sure they're okay.
So maybe because it's December's, the January newsletter coming out, and we're going to have a couple really long months, we should move that information into the front page of the newsletter.
That's a good idea.
Is there any service like that doesn't cost anything? Because I think it's prohibitive to some people.
That's the problem.
I don't think there's anything that doesn't cost, but I was going to say, Joan, it'd be good to look into Highland Valley and see if we could get a group rate, right?
Yeah.
Like the social worker mentioned.
Yeah, because the problem with the calls, which I think are a great idea, is that you can get a call and say you're fine and fall down the stairs.
Right. No, absolutely.
So you need something that you can activate in an emergency.
Oh, you definitely need the call isn't a replacement for trying to get people.
I mean, but they're a great service, and I think it's excellent to.
And I always say that Francine's mother had one of those, and it was always somewhere up in her apartment area, but never around her neck.
Not her person, yeah.
So you can do all the right things, but you can't get a person to necessarily.
You can get a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes, exactly. But anyway,
this person does wear hers.
Yeah.
And it has fall detection. So if I go down and I'm not conscious, they will know within 5 seconds that I'm not responsive.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
And that's through great calls. But the other place that might be.
How do you spell that, Laura? Is that GRAY calls?
No, GREAT, great calls.
Oh, great calls. Okay, sorry. Thank you. That's why I asked. I know.
But the other one is AARP. I wonder if they would have any information.
Yeah, so I mean, I know we've got a week to get things together, but I mean, if anybody can gather any information to share with Joan on any of those groups, feel free to also send it her way over the next week.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll do some stuff as well. But yeah, I'm very concerned over the next 2 to 3 months. It's going to be cold, and people are going to be homebound, and the pandemic's probably going to still get worse. And we need to do the best we can. As
a lot of old people trying to shovel snow.
No. All right. Now I have 3 things I just want to mention. Grocery shopping in the winter months, that has just people have renewed that. They're looking for somebody to come and grocery shop for them, which we started that list back in April. So I'm going to renew that list and get that going. Legal services, that was something that people were interested in. And I guess there was a free mass legal services, but the number that's in our newsletter isn't active, so I need to research that a little bit. And
I would check with Highland Valley too on that, because I think that they have a lot of that information, maybe right on the website. So
Yes, I agree.
I was a consultant to Western Mass Legal Services several years ago after I retired. And they offered free legal service, but there was an income test in order to qualify for the free legal services.
Yep.
They have since disbanded, but they're in operation under another name now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
that was only 2, Joan.
I know. I knew you were going to pick up, and I can't remember what the third one was.
Okay, okay.
We'll wait.
Just checking. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts or concerns? I mean, again, yeah, we need to, here we are in December and we just have to do our best. And if we can get a list from Lucy for the 85 and older.
I remembered.
Okay.
So Hampshire Regional has a community service with their 12th grade students.
Yep.
So we have access to students, and one of the things they said they would do is shoveling. Of course, if it's a big driveway, they probably need a plow. But I do have some students, and I do have people on our volunteer list that do some shoveling. And if anybody knows anybody in town that does shoveling or plowing, could you please send me their contact information, because that has been a request almost daily.
Okay, good. And what else was I going to say? And also if we can get some volunteers for tech support. So if people do have the technology, but need some help. And I know Kay doesn't ever want to get her face on the screen, but I won't use it as an example. But, I think that, if maybe we could ask for volunteers for tech support as well.
Great.
I mean, maybe people already have devices and they just don't know how do I set up a Zoom meeting, for example? If I want to join a Zoom, just simple things that we take for granted, even though I learn something new every time I do one of these. So
they said that the MCOA website has some virtual tutorials on very simple ways for Zoom. So I'm going to look into that. Maybe it's something I can copy and paste and put in our newsletter as well.
Okay.
Good idea.
Just real quick on the CARES Act funds. So we're still waiting for the final okay from the state to spend. We have 2 quotes on awnings that can go from 20 to 30 feet and 13 feet wide. And I think we have close to enough money requested out of the CARES funds to have an outside space, which will be great. We just have to pick a color of an awning. And John wanted turquoise, and I said that's kind of, loud on the back of town hall. So, no, I'm kidding. But here's
1,000 swatches.
And she has all the swatches.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess we kind of decided that we should make sure Ed agrees to whatever color, and probably maybe Rini as chair of the select board, so we don't get it installed and somebody come to us after the fact and ask us what we were thinking. But we were thinking more towards a grayish or a beigey, something that kind of blends in either with the roof or the wall and isn't in still professional theme in town. But I wanted to see if anybody else had any thoughts.
Yes.
This is Rainey. Go ahead.
Excuse me?
Rini,
Let Rini.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Rini.
I just wanted to say maybe the Historical Society would really actually be more important to chime in.
true, because that is a historical building. That was a schoolhouse.
Okay. So we should speak with them? Okay. Is that the Historical Commission? Rini, do you know?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Christina Madsen would probably be a good contact.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so that's good to know. All right, thanks, good idea. Things that we hadn't thought of, so, okay. Okay, Yvonne?
Just to be aware of sun exposure, something that will sustain sun exposure well.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, this is a pretty good quality. We got from the 2 quotes, so we got pretty good. And they recommended that we stay away from light colors because they show the dirt it's sort of not age well. So, but the historical commission would be a good go-to person. I can talk to Christina, Joan. Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you.
I did touch base with Ed before I left today, and I did tell him we were talking about it at the meeting tonight, and I showed him the samples. But we wanted to make sure that everybody was on board, that we weren't going to make a final choice till we had the okay from, the town people, whoever, the powers to be.
And I think that until we need to know the color. So when they say, yes, you can order, we can order, because it's probably going to not be installed by the end of the year, but I think they'll work with us on getting things rolling. So, okay. Let me see if there's anything else on the other list before we move to our subcommittee to talk about membership. So I was reading the first paragraph as it states in the great document you guys put together regarding our bylaws, that we do have a full committee, but we do not have the 2 alternates on our committee. So it's full from a membership perspective, but we're missing two alternates, this is how we got Nancy for one person and Yvonne, right? Am I having original 2 alternates? Because also in our bylaws, we have term limits. So we need to make sure, because we always want to get fresh new ideas on the board. I mean, we can go for 2 full terms plus whatever partial term you start with. So if you don't start it.
Nominations?
For people?
Yeah. There's a fellow who was in our Spanish class. Dennis. I can't remember his last name. But he was a fairly high ranking in the Springfield school system. And he's a very dynamic person. And I think he'd be an excellent person.
Sounds good. Get him on board.
Yeah. Joan, I'll check with you for his name. Okay.
Dennis Vogel.
What?
Oh, Vogel.
Vogel.
Very good.
Now, there's not term limits for alternates, though, right?
No, we haven't written term limits in for alternates. Hopefully.
Should I contact Dennis then, or?
Yeah, if you'd like to do that, that's fine.
Good. I'll contact you offline to get his contact information. Okay, Joan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it in the office, so maybe tomorrow.
But I don't want to put it, out in the public. He might not.
Yes, that's fine.
Because I also want to make sure that we're looking for people that are also future seniors. And that's why the newsletter's great. And, I've lost your document, so I'm going to try to go back to find it.
Yeah, and if you look at one of our paragraphs, we address that, Janet.
Okay. There it is. Okay. So you want to go through it, Lori, since you put it together, just kind of?
No, because I sent it to everyone. I don't have a copy in front of me. Jim, do you have your copy? Because I'm so efficient over here.
Okay. There were 9 recommendations. We've already dealt with number 1. Number 2 is that the COA board should reach out to the First Congregational Church of Southampton regarding collaborative activities, which would not be in competition to what they're doing, but those things would include like sharing space, co-sponsoring trips, more extensive trips and stuff, and sharing parking lots. For example, if there's a big trip where we have a bus where people could park while we're away for the day without clogging town hall, things like that. And also to include the members from the church too, if they wanted to come with us. That should a decision be made for the board to recruit board members or ultimate members, that efforts are likely to be most successful among people who have already made use of the Council on Aging. So we're recommending that if we can identify people with whom we've interacted at some kind of a COA function, that we would reach out to them, but Then Janet just mentioned the possibility of future seniors, which is what we sort of anticipated, I think, with number 4, Lori, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm listening.
Reach out to other organizations within town, like the PTO, who may have parents who are in need of our services or have ideas on what we can do for seniors who are living at home and might need a little extra assistance. So if we're looking for alternates who are not yet seniors, things like the PTO would be, we thought, a fruitful place to look. And also efforts should be made to recruit more male participants. That's tough. I mean, I think even at Northampton Senior Center, most of the participants seem to be women, even though there are a lot of men. Things like the Bridge Club and stuff like that, they have a lot of men, and also the Athletic Center. Also, it is recommended that we reach out to other communities, or committees rather, boards and organizations whose members are likely to include people of all ages that may be retired or near retirement, or that they may be caring for elderly persons or family members. That's sort of repetitious of what I just said. Also, Lori came up with the idea of contacting local colleges, because there may be students enrolled in programs where they can earn credit for participating in the senior center activities. And they might have new ideas and may be able to come up with programs that we could use. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes.
Okay. And then the subcommittee would like to work on recommendations regarding communicating with the COA service area. And we discussed this a little bit idea with the newsletter, but Lori, please jump in, but my big gripe is that a lot of really good information is posted on channel 191, but the problem is you can't read it. It's really very, very difficult, especially if you're older and don't have super keen vision, and there's no audio, there's just posting. And I think that's an important source. I just wish we could include our graphics or improve the graphics a little bit.
Yeah, some of the fonts and stuff are really hard to read, I find as well.
Yeah.
Did we share that one, Jim? Was that, I know you emailed me that concern. Was that shared with Easthampton Media? I thought I had forwarded it.
I think I mentioned that at last meeting, and you mentioned that Easthampton, that 191 was actually looking for input and stuff, and I mentioned graphic artist would be helpful.
What is that? Okay, can you mute that UK?
No, I think it's Rini.
Rini? No, she would.
I just want to let people know that Robert Floyd and Nilda Cohen are on board members of Easthampton Media.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, interesting.
And Robert Floyd would probably know a lot about the graphics anyway. And then I think number 9, we've already discussed that. Writing articles which would include creative thoughts of the COA board regarding the board and COA goals and activities. And but in addition to the scoop, we'd also include other periodicals that are published in the area, like the Reminder, Robert Floyd's newsletter, church bulletins, which Lori came up with, but I think is a good idea. Town websites, Channel 191, and other periodicals and means of communicating that are available through the community. And that's our report.
Okay, I'll interject. Thank you, Jim. Can't believe I didn't have a copy in front of me.
I don't either, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, so much for your subcommittee, Jim. Anyhow, when we were talking about putting an article together, I was hoping I could get the board to put their thinking caps on. And this be a nice thing. I don't know if Yvonne is still with us.
I am.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe your writing group could help us with this. but we need something catchy. You know, a catchy title like "What are you doing in retirement?" or "What are your intentions for your elderly parents?" Something that would make them read the article, and then you say would you like to join the board? Blah 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 blah. I'm not a creative writer. But something that we could send to the reminder, something that we could put in a newsletter. And then if we had a flyer with this information, I would love, if we could afford it, to send it out, but not to send it out to everybody. It would be to anybody, let's say, under 70 and under, so that we're reaching the younger people, the people that were desperate to get on the committee. I mean, we don't need any more Lauries in their 80s on the committee. We need younger people.
You started 20 years ago, so.
I know those years have flown by. But, and I'm going to interject, I'm going to go 360. We talked about getting Liz back on. If we can't get Liz, let's ask her about her husband, because he's trying to get known in Southampton. So, but we need to be able to reach that younger group. The Nancys, the Janets,
I thank you, but I appreciate that categorization.
Who's Liz? Liz who?
Liz Fletcher. Liz Pluff. It's Liz Pluff, Fletcher Pluff. She used to be a member, but work sort of got in her way. And I think Nancy can probably speak to how sometimes work gets in the way. And we appreciate the people that you work for enabling you to participate. And I guess, I know that there's a lot of bias. I know there's a volunteer website through Jim's favorite social media that's for Southampton volunteers. And I would also like to consider maybe advertising a little bit, once we get that catchy phrase down, to at least reach out. I think there's been some good success. The painting of the cemetery fence, I think they recruited a lot of people for that through the Facebook page. So, there's ways to reaching maybe those that don't get our newsletter, that maybe don't always read Robert Floyd's newsletter, but we might be able to, that maybe aren't in church, but that might be able to attract them into the group.
I love that idea, because this is what we need. And we need that catchy phrase that's going to make you read it. And, if people know that we're asking for what we're telling them. We only need 2 hours commitment. Once we hook them, that's another story. But at the moment,
and it's only a once a month meeting, and there's not a lot of work in between, except if you want to volunteer to help out with Joan. And we're advisory. We're not, necessarily decision makers, but we definitely, I think of, if we're throwing out names, Ted Palmer as an example. He's been very active in pickleball. He's been doing a great job recruiting other seniors and doing his own little pickleball groups.
Yeah.
People aren't ready to join us yet. He's not a big joiner, though. I'm not sure, but we're looking for male participants, so we can start with Dennis. And again, this is as alternates until somebody's term is up or someone decides they need to step down for some reason. But those are a couple people that come to mind for me.
And I share your high regard for Ted, but like you said, I didn't think he'd be a joiner, but he does a lot of stuff. He does. Yeah,
he does a lot of stuff.
He does a lot of stuff.
He's been very helpful.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but I don't know if you mentioned it, but reaching out to the library and putting something, in their newsletter. They do periodic emails anyway. I don't know about the newsletters, but that may be a good source as well.
Okay, good idea.
I like that idea. I trust a person who reads a book.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I get their e-newsletters, so.
No,
as
I'm
well.
a trustee, and I think there's a lot of potential there, even for coming up with programs for adult story hours, really, and things like that.
Yeah,
Great.
good. So all these are great ideas. Let's think about if anybody comes up with a catchphrase, just send it out to the board and just put your thinking caps on and share it. We have our group email and anything that you can come up with. And once we get the catchphrase and the catchy, I know Lori in her letter to the select board said we need to help people understand what it is we do to help people, to help attract people to be participants. So
this is actually looking for a catchphrase to become a member of the board, whether you're young, old, male, female.
yeah,
Okay.
it may be more than a phrase. It may be two phrases. But-
You might as a caption for the article, though, like a headline.
Right.
Yeah,
Something that would make you stop and read it.
read it.
Like,
No, stop and read this.
Or read this or die. Something.
Oh, dear. That's severe.
Yes, something along those lines. Right, a good headline, like to say, what
Get
is
more out of this is a naked article.
Ooh.
Get your attention.
It's like,
And
what?
again, right now we're looking for alternates, and an alternate has the same, requirements more or less as the board members. They aren't able to be a voting member unless there's not a quorum, and then they can fill in as a voting member. So, and again, we are going to have, turnover as we move forward, and we just, have to have a plan. And
Did you want me to reach out to Ted Palmer also?
Perfect.
if you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind 2 new men for alternates.
I don't mind.
We love men.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I may mention something to him too, Jim. So we'll
We'll whip some.
tag team him. Yeah, tag team him. So yeah, he's been very helpful. He helped me line the 3rd pickleball court. I mean, he's just willing to.
He's a super guy. He really is.
Guy. So
Yeah.
okay, thank you for your time. I know you put some effort into that. And let me just mention that if you need to do anything via Zoom for this subcommittee or any subcommittee moving forward, let me know, and I can certainly set you up and not participate because that would be a quorum. So I'd be happy to do that. So you're not going back and forth via email or trying to pay for another account. But if you do less than, I think, 40 minutes, you can do Zoom free. But
True.
you may need a technology guru to help you figure out how to do that.
Okay.
We need those volunteers. So,
Well, thank you.
all
Yeah,
right.
no gurus in this subcommittee, I'm afraid.
As we quickly found out.
Yeah, we were just meeting up at Cranwell and
Oh, I like that place.
yeah.
Well, Jim and Lori, you did a.
No, you contributed also.
I have to say, you've been great.
And thank you. A lot of great ideas. And I will add the thought about having, once we get that catchphrase, putting it on the Southampton volunteer Facebook page. And if the majority of the people are okay with that.
Yeah. You know, I'll get our group to start working on that, and maybe
Yeah, we
we
need
can end it with a mission statement or something.
First. So there is an EOEA meeting tomorrow at 2. Joan, are you going to be able to go to that?
Yes, that's funny that you bring it up. I just turned to that page. Yeah, it's concerned with they're addressing social isolation during the pandemic. And Life Path is the one who's leading so I'm interested to see what they have to say about it.
Does everybody get the newsletter from MCOA? Have you all signed up for that?
Yes.
I know a lot of you
No.
have. If you don't have it, I'll send the most recent one out to all of you. And if you want to sign up for it, I think you can do it right through their newsletter, their e-letter. And we'll also give you information if you're interested in attending and listening to the EOEA meeting tomorrow. So
What does EOEA stand for?
Executive Office of Elder Affairs. It's our state, our state agency.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I was going to say that, Jim, because it took me about a year into the board before I knew that answer. So,
With 35 years of government service, I still hate acronyms.
yes, I know.
Oh, well, I was just thinking that if you work for the government, you know about acronyms.
Oh, my gosh.
So before we schedule December's meeting, I found an error on my January's meeting. Sorry. Anybody else have any comments before we wrap up the meeting and schedule the next date, which is, Rini, anything that you need to add from a select board perspective? Off of mute. Maybe she's working.
Did we lose her?
No, she's there, but she may
Can you hear
be.
me?
Yeah, now you're there,
Hi.
yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. No, not really. Last night we voted in a new emergency management director who was very interested in, something that he tried to work on before when he was emergency management director, which is a cooling and heating center for seniors in particular. He's particularly interested in being able to provide emergency services for seniors. So his name is Don Snyder. And so I'm sure he'll be connecting up with at least you, Joan, and possibly Janet, okay?
Yes, great.
So that's news to me. Is this just recent?
Yes, there was.
Just last night.
Yeah, it was a vacancy since the end of October, so.
Great.
Okay. Anything else, Rini? That's it? That's good?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
I can't think of, it was a long meeting as usual, but I think that's it.
Okay, good. Next meeting, January 6th. Does that look like the first Wednesday of the month? At 4:00
Sounds good.
of 2021?
Wow.
Wow.
New Year.
Yep.
Yay.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
And Josie, and we'll go through, Yvonne, you made the motion. So this, again, we'll just do the roll call. Aye, Lori,
Aye.
Kay,
Aye.
thank you. Jim,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Nancy,
Hi.
and Janet, aye. Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. It is 5:39.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.